ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपिका कांत राधाकांत नमोस्ते तप्तकांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्ते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले नामिने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे विशेष पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे त्वं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं। Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. So we have started this new course. This is the second session of a new series, and we are currently actually in the introductory couple of sessions to give an overview of what we'll be covering and what is the relevance, importance, benefit of what we are covering. It's always important to know before we actually get into learning why we should learn what we are learning. Everything is utility based. Everything is utility based. We are not learning anything which is futile. Even for bhakti, it is not that we are learning, we are doing bhakti because we want something material, but still there is utility. And what is that utility? The utility is that we become reinstated in our original position. Jivera Swaruphoya Krishnera Nityadas. Krishnasya Tatastha Shakti Bheda Bheda Prakash. Eternally, we are the part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are simultaneously one and different from Him. Same in quality, but different in quantity. He is unlimited, but we are a spark. But right now, we are covered over by avidya, and we want to re-establish ourselves in our pure, pristine position as a pure soul. And what is the Sanatan Dharma of the pure soul? The Sanatan Dharma of the pure soul is to render seva to the source, the supreme soul that it comes from. It's as simple as that. The duty of the part is to serve the whole. So our philosophy is very, very simple, very natural, very logical. And in that state of purity, as a part of that service is based on love, and that service is based on a desire to please the Lord. That is what Sanatana Dharma is about. So we were discussing the various aspects of our spiritual progress in our last session, and we covered only half of the slides. We couldn't complete the entire slide deck. So we intend to continue our review of the slide deck from where we left off and try to get that overview done. And hopefully, we can also make an entry into giving you an overview of the topics that we'll be covering. And then hopefully the next week on the next session onwards, This is a fortnightly class. Fortnightly for the simple reason that I don't want to overburden you with 3 classes in a week. Of course, for me, it is never a problem. But I don't want to have too many for you to juggle with. So that's why we have kept it as fortnightly for now. So let me go to the slide deck, and from the slide deck we can discuss. So like what I mentioned, if as I'm going through the presentation, my request is if you have any question, because I want this to be interactive and not purely a lecture. Like what I mentioned, keep your video on, and second, you can just use the reactions button on Zoom to raise your hand like this, and this is what we will see, so that I will know that you want to ask some question. And after you have asked your question, you can go to the same place and lower your hand. There is also a lower hand button. You remove the hand. Yeah. So in case you're not familiar, this is the way you do. Also, there are other reactions. Like if I ask you something, you want to say yes, you can always do a thumbs up to say that you approve or agree with it, or this is your realization. Also, there are other buttons also there. There is a no. As you can see, there is a yes. So many other. So use all these creative tools effectively so that there is interaction and feedback. So I do not want this to be just a monologue. Of course, I don't want you to flash icons just because it looks attractive also. So obviously we want it to be meaningful. Yeah. So please feel to interact. And if you have any questions midway, especially those which are important to be clarified at that point in time, then do raise your hand. And of course, at the end, we will also try to keep some time to open the floor for question and answers. If you're hesitant to ask at that point in time, by all means, you can wait up to the end. Not a problem. Okay, so having said this, okay, now I've removed my tick. Okay, so let me share PowerPoint. Okay, are you all able to see?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so we started with this. So I'm just going to quickly flash the slides which we covered last week, and then we'll continue from there. So a very quick recap. We spoke about the spiritual advancement framework, the 5S. If you see these 5 circles, all begin with an S. And these are the 5 dimensions or aspects of spiritual life that we need to take care and manage so that we can properly make spiritual advancement. If you are falling short in any one of this, then it's going to affect the balance of a proper holistic spiritual development. What does that mean? That means that one cannot say that satsanga, association with devotees, I will avoid. Devotees are too problematic. I have so many issues with them. They are not nice to me, so I'll not be with them. But I will learn philosophy, but I will do seva. Doesn't work. Or I will do seva, service to the Lord, but I'm not interested in philosophical knowledge. I don't need to know. I just want to serve. That also doesn't help. And why it doesn't, we will go into that detail when we go into various aspects. And I think some of those we discussed the last week also. And similarly with sadhana, which is discipline, regular practice, spiritual practices, and sadachar, which is Vaishnava ethics. So we discussed that all these 5 are important and why this satsanga we have placed in the center. Sorry, Meenalji, you have a question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Sadhana, is it not part of sadachar?
No, sadhana is not sadachar. Sadhana is spiritual practice, and sadachar is Vaishnava behavior and etiquette.
So in behavior,
see, of course, no, see, of course, behavior, Siddhanta, We discussed this last time that in all the aspects, there is some overlap of the others as well. Yeah. Because even chanting is a seva. So in that sense, an aspect of seva is that even when chanting, which is a sadhana, there is an aspect of Siddhanta because we need to understand Siddhanta to do sadhana properly. And there is within the performance of sadhana, there may be certain aspects of sadachar. But what we are trying to say is that there is a specific focus area within each. And what you are bringing up is right. And that is why this diagram is showing interdependence. We are not showing them as isolated, independent limbs. And that is why we are showing an interconnection. And I mentioned this last time, that it is not just that satsanga is connected to these four, but in fact, each of these four circles are actually nourishing each other also, and they are supporting each other. Yeah. But we will obviously be focusing on certain aspects directly, and wherever there are important interdependencies, we will mention that within that discussion also.
And one more question. So let's say somebody is starting first step. So it happens simultaneously all, or it is a stepwise where we start association first, seva.
Yeah. So generally we start with satsanga because without association with devotees, none of these things we will learn about. Yes. Yeah. Of course, sadhana, also the guidance for sadhana, typically in satsanga, first we learn some siddhanta and then typically people come to sadhana. In some cases, in satsanga, one may be directly engaged in seva, and through seva, one may develop some faith and then learn siddhanta and get into sadhana. So there are some variations possible. But the key point is satsanga. Yes. Of course, if it is also possible that in some cases one may have no satsanga, but one unknowingly performs some seva for the Lord without active satsanga, but then that seva will give fruit in the form of giving one satsanga. But satsanga is important. Without satsanga, there cannot be sustained, serious, substantial spiritual progress. So that is why I'm saying that all of them are interconnected. They are not isolated. But for the sake of our learning, we have to be conscious of these 5 dimensions. Yes. Okay. Does that help you? Yeah. Bhaskar Prabhu, you want to ask something?
Yes, Prabhuji. See, out of these 5 limbs of this, if anyone is connected to one, for example, one person is attracted to seva only, so remaining 4 will automatically develop it, or we have to also focus to understand and develop it.
So like what we discussed last time, see, we are under the category of satsanga. This we discussed last time. So if we have satsanga, then within satsanga gives us knowledge of siddhanta. It tells us and trains us in sadhana. It shows us and trains us in sadachar, and it guides us and engages us in seva. So no matter where you may start as a touch point, usually sadachar is not a direct touch point. Sadachar is usually a training which is given. Usually a person will not even engage in sadhana unless there is some association and philosophical understanding. So more usual than not is that either people come in contact with association, or somehow they render some seva, or they read some books. Prabhupada books. Many people just come in contact. I initially came in contact with Prabhupada books. I did not get Sangha first. But I didn't make any tangible progress, significant progress, because I was just reading for years. I was 10 years, 11 years old, but there was no association. So my devotional creeper wasn't getting nourished and wasn't developing properly because I was not getting a holistic perspective of devotional service, its philosophy, its practice, its expression. All these other limbs were not developing properly. I used to occasionally chant, but that was not adequate. So eventually, this led to this. And once this came, all other limbs started developing. So what I'm saying is this is especially important. All are important for an all-round spiritual advancement. Yes. One cannot say that I will never do seva, I will only do siddhanta and sadhana. because our whole nature, Jiver Swarupoe Krishna Nityadas, our nature is to serve Krishna. How can I say, if I learn the philosophy and don't serve, it doesn't make sense. If I learn philosophy, but I say I will not practice, then how will you make spiritual advancement? Right? Yeah. So all these limbs are serving a particular purpose in the overall spiritual evolution of the soul. Yeah. Does it answer your question, Bhaskar Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fine. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you can lower your hand. Thank you. Okay. So we discussed this. So I'm just quickly revising. We discussed how satsanga is at the very root, how it nourishes. We discussed about Siddhanta. Siddhanta is the philosophical understanding. And this is the basis. It gives us a philosophical framework. It gives us the spiritual worldview to try to understand who I am, what is God, what is this world, what are the interrelationships. And this also includes understanding philosophically the process, not the practice itself, but the philosophical basis of the practice is also a part of the Siddhanta. For example, the holy name, the glory of the holy name, why the holy name is important, the special importance of holy name in Kali Yuga is all also part of the overall philosophical understanding. And that leads to the practice of sadhana. So sadhana is definitely based on Siddhanta. So this is very important for our intellectual conviction. I'm going through this quickly because this is a revision. And then we spoke about sadhana. So once we are convinced about who we are, what is the goal of life, what is the process, what is the next step? The next step is to engage in the process. We are at a particular point. We are at a source. From the source, we want to get to the destination. Our source is conditioned illusion life. Our destination is liberated life in the spiritual world, serving Krishna in pure love. So to get from A to B, it is not sufficient simply to have a map. Yes. For example, somebody says that, oh, you want to go to Europe? You want to go to Switzerland? Okay, here's a map. You are in Kuala Lumpur. Here is this is how you go. You take this, then you take KLIA flight. You go here, and you sit with the map, and you go on seeing the map and understanding the map. You by heart the map. You can remember the map in the middle of the night, but you never undertake the journey. You never undertake the journey, which means you never actually step out of your house and go to the airport, get a visa. So you have to follow the process. Siddhanta will give you the framework, the map. But sadhana is the taking the steps to traverse the journey to proper spiritual advancement. Yes, I hope this makes sense. So, of course, sadhana can have many aspects. Yeah, this is not an exhaustive list, but typically I want to focus on 3 areas as a part of our sadhana discussions. Any regular spiritual practice is sadhana. But what I want to focus are the 3 main areas. If you remember, there are 5 main areas of devotional services, Rupa Goswami, those who are Bhakti Shastri students. What are the top 5 aspects of spiritual practice? Those who have studied Nectar of Devotion. Sarva Lakshmi Mataji or Meenal Mataji, one of them, or anybody else. What are the top 5 limbs of devotional service? Sadhana practice.
Hearing, chanting, remembering.
Those are the Navavidha Bhakti, but there are specific 5 items which Rupa Goswami mentions, which are most important amongst this. Yeah, the 9 are there. So the 9 are expanded into 64 by Rupa Goswami, and there are 5 which he says are the most important.
Staying in the holy dham.
Yes, Prabhu wants to start from the bottom first. Okay, staying in the holy dham. Then that's the 5th item, Mathuravas. What else? What are the other 4? Okay, so it begins with association of devotees, chanting the holy name, reading Bhagavad, worshipping deity and staying in Vrindavan. So of course, staying in Vrindavan is not something which we can practice here in our class. So that is something we have to actually, endeavor. So I've not listed that because, that we will be discussing as a part of our book itself, because residing in the abode is one of the parts that we are discussing in the Vaishnava etiquette book. So we'll probably discuss a bit there. Association anyway is an overwhelming factor which will come across our discussions in all aspects. But the other three are here: chanting the holy name, study of Bhagavatam, and worship of the deities. Okay, these three are very, very important. Yes, Minalji, question?
Yeah, just one question, Prabhuji, may not be related, but I just want to ask. I have seen word worship and prayer separately. Is there I know there's a difference, but if you can help to explain a difference.
Worship is the
prayer.
worship of the deity, the Sri Vigraha. The seva of the Sri Vigraha is what we mean by deity worship. Prayer means offering prayers to the Lord, glorification or supplication to the Lord, which doesn't necessarily be in front of the deity. It can be in front of the deity. It can be within our own heart. You can be in your bus. You can be driving. You are praying to the Lord. Prayer is vandanam. Okay, so prayer can be offered in any place. Can be, of course, offered to the deities. It's wonderful to offer to the deities. But prayer can be offered at any place, any time to the Lord. That is vandanam. Akrura offered beautiful prayers. He is especially known for vandanam. He offered to Krishna in Vrindavan. He saw him. Okay, fine. So that is about Sadachar. So these are the three areas. So we'll be discussing that as well in sadhana, 3 parts, and then Sadachar. So we want to continue from this point. Minilji, your hand is still up. Okay, sorry, I thought it was another question. Okay, so Sad Achar. Sad is referring to the truth, the spiritual truth, and Achar is referring to behavior, living, one's activity. So in very simple words, Sad Achar means living as per the truth or behaving as per the So Sadachar means Vaishnava lifestyle. In very simple words, what does lifestyle mean? Lifestyle practically covers all aspects of our life. Anand Sundari Mataji, can you go on mute? You are continuously unmuting. Thank you. Yeah. So it deals with various aspects in our life. It deals with our body. How does it deal with our body? Sadachar. How we take care of the body. It includes how we dress, how we put tilak, how we put kantimala, how we keep our body clean, how we treat our body. That's also part of lifestyle and etiquette. Then how we deal with or how we behave and act in a temple environment. For that also there is an elaborate set of rules and regulations. How we interact and deal with the deity of the Lord in the temple. For that also there is a set of rules and regulations. How we should interact and deal with the Guru. The way we deal with our friend, can we deal in the same way with our Guru? If we see our Guru, can we say, "Oh, hi Guru Maharaj, how are you?" Can we say like that? Or when we see Krishna, can we just say, "Hi Krishna, how are you doing?" So there is a particular way to interact based on proper understanding of Tattva, based on understanding our position and the position of that which we are dealing with. And that is the Sad Achar. Achar based on the understanding of truth, understanding our position and the relative position of what we are interacting with. So that interaction can be with the Lord, can be with the guru, can be with devotees, can be with people in the society. How we should deal with people in the society. In the society, there will be some people who will be favorable, some who will be unfavorable, some who will be inimical to devotion. How do we deal with our relatives? Some of them will be favorable, some of them will be inimical. How do we deal with things of this world in a spiritual way? How do we deal and interact with the dham, the abode of the Lord? So these are some categories. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list, but I'm trying to give you an example of some key areas that Sadachar deals with. And Sadachar is so exhaustive that there is nothing that is outside, because when we are in this world, we have to interact with all categories of individuals and things in this world. And the emphasis of Sad Achar, proper behavior, is in such a way that based on the proper understanding of truth, the devotee learns how to ideally behave and interact and respond when in connection with those people and things. So in simple words, Vaishnav etiquette or Sadachar translates into three aspects: the character that the devotee should have, what are the qualities that the devotee should display, and what is the specific behavior that the devotee has to show in specific situations, circumstances, or in relation to specific individuals. So in another way, you can say Sadachar is also, or is in fact, the entire culture of Krishna consciousness. Because what is culture? Culture covers all aspects of one life, isn't it? When we say Malaysian culture, so Malaysians are very proud of Malaysian culture. So they have a particular way they interact with food. There are a particular way they like to spend their spare time. There's a particular way they like to dress. There's a particular way they like to greet each other when they meet. There are particular phrases that they use in common parlance. There's a particular way they show respect to each other. There's a particular way they show anger to each other also. They are angry. So each culture has evolved with it a certain kinds of traits, behaviors. So just like Malaysians have their culture, or British have their culture, American have their culture, we are talking about the culture of the spiritual world. Ultimately, what is Sad Achar? It is behavior based on truth. So where is the truth found in perfection? Truth is found in perfection in the spiritual world, isn't it? And that is why perfect spiritual behavior is displayed by all the residents of the spiritual. And the same set of rules and behaviors that the perfected souls display in the spiritual world, we want to emulate and learn that, so that we can bring in a similar culture on this planet here. In fact, the Sanatan Dharma culture is in fact based on that spiritual culture, on the spiritual world. That's why the pure Indian culture, I'm not talking about the various variant flavors that may be currently there across different parts of India, but the original Vedic, pure Sanatan Dharma culture is actually representative of the culture of the spiritual world. And how is that culture evolved? When a soul is in its perfectional stage, based on that mood And that understanding of the truth, of the nature of truth in terms of the relationship of oneself with others and the Lord and the things around, one automatically, based on that pure consciousness, behaves in a particular way. It is a reflection of one's inner alignment with truth, which results in the development of spiritual character and qualities. For example, if you truly realize and understand the glory of God and your position as an eternal servant, actually the consequence of that alignment will be that you will be humble, will be that you will be tolerant. When you understand that all living entities are connected with the Supreme Lord, and they are also part and parcel and dear to Krishna, automatically you will, as a part of your loving relationship with God, also behave in a positive, loving way with all living entities. Isn't it? So I'm just giving you some examples. What I want you to understand is, sorry, Anand Sundari Mataji, yeah, you're toggling between Newton and mute. So these qualities naturally, this behavior naturally evolves from perfect realization and perfect qualities in truth. But we are not yet there in terms of our perfect behavior and perfect qualities. But in our stage of practice, we still follow those rules and regulations so that by emulating that culture, those qualities and that character gradually develop within us. For us, it is reverse engineering. When we become purified, the qualities and the behavior will come naturally. But meanwhile, we train ourselves to behave like the residents of the spiritual world so that the proper qualities, because each of the behavior is ultimately that is defined, the etiquette that is defined is not defined whimsically. It is defined based on a particular understanding of truth. And when one enacts or behaves according to that understanding, one actually evokes that particular feeling or consciousness. For example, what am I trying? I'm just giving some examples so you can appreciate this point. Even if you don't feel humble, when we see our spiritual master or our spiritual teachers, actually, as soon as we see them, we should feel extremely humble and grateful. But the sad thing is we don't. So the Shastra says, whenever you see your spiritual master and your spiritual teachers, you should offer dandavats. You should touch your forehead to the ground. So even if you're not feeling humble, by doing that, you will evoke humility in your heart. Get the point? If you say, no, Prabhu, even after banging my head, I'm not feeling humility. Then the solution is keep doing it until it happens. Okay? You keep faking it and then you will make it one day. Because that is our conditioning. So this is an important part of spiritual practice because it is very important in the sense that it shapes our consciousness. Yes, Gangotri Mataji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry, just want to check, Prabhu. I mean, just now you say we have to pay obeisances, right? Let's say because we have got some health issues, then we can't pay obeisances. We can't bend down like that. How, Prabhu?
Yeah. So the actual practical things we will discuss when we come into the detailed practice. This I'm just giving as an example right now to understand the principle. So can we treat your question when we come to that point? We'll be discussing obeisances in great detail.
Okay, sure, Prabhu.
Thank you. Yeah. So now the point is, I'm going to go through each of these aspects in great detail. Right now, I'm just giving you examples so that you can understand what is it and why is this important. Because if we do not follow the proper principles of etiquette, behavior, and culture, then we will not be able to develop the proper consciousness. One. Second, we can end up committing a lot of mistakes and even offenses in our interaction with the Lord, with the spiritual master, our Shiksha and Diksha gurus, as well as with other living entities. And all these improper offensive acts actually stunt our spiritual advancement and can be counterproductive. So it is very important. Just like you join military, there is such strict, regulated etiquette. I cannot call it sad achar, but let us call it military achar. It is not based on sad, but it is based on military. It is based on Kshatriya dharma. What is that behavior? Your superior comes in, instantly everybody becomes savadhan, salute. Until the superior says, be in a relaxed position, Vishram, they will be uptight. So very strict etiquette. You cannot see your senior and say, yo, buddy, nice to see you. You will be removed, you'll be court-martialed. Because there's a particular culture based on a particular philosophy, a particular understanding, a particular way of dealing. So all these aspects are very important. So just like all these various domains have their set of etiquette, spiritual pure devotion has also its consequent culture, etiquette, lifestyle, behavior associated with its corresponding qualities and character. Okay, so what we are going to be doing is we'll be discussing what are the various aspects of Sadachar, and today before we end, at least I will give you a high level list of what all we will be discussing. And then we will get into each of those in great detail, and then you can ask for that aspect your detailed questions like what Gangotri Mataji asked, obeisances. I will discuss obeisances in great detail. So all various scenarios related to obeisances you can ask. Prabhu, what if I'm at the airport? Prabhu, what if I'm in the toilet? And the Guru enters the toilet. Am I expected to offer obeisances? So there can be 1 million questions. And these are all practical things which happen. So all those interesting discussions we will have when we get into the details. Okay, let's have a high level view for now. And last but not the least is Seva. So ultimately, through all our understanding and sadhana, we also want to engage ourselves in Krishna service, because ultimately when we go to the spiritual world, we are not just going to be reciting Siddhanta, or we are not going to be sitting with a Japamala there. When we go to the spiritual world, we'll be busy serving the Krishna. We'll be either assisting Radharani to cook, or we'll be busy assisting some wonderful, great devotees in somehow or the other serving Krishna in various ways. Maybe assisting Mother Yashoda to decorate Krishna, maybe assisting in Krishna's play. The cowherd boys are assisting Krishna to herd the cows, or whatever. But Seva is our eternal function. So what is the dharma of the soul? Seva. Seva to Krishna. So even while we are in the material world, we have to train ourselves in that Seva. So Seva means engaging ourselves in Krishna service. So this engagement in service can be engagement in various ways. What are those various ways? We can engage our body in Krishna service. I'm lifting something heavy and transporting it from one place to another, engaging the body. Engaging the mind. Engaging one's intelligence. Planning for Krishna, planning for the temple, using one's intelligence to solve problems related to preaching, management of the temple. Lakshmi, giving money donation for various spiritual causes. Influence, if one is very powerful and influential, using one's influence somehow in Krishna's service, either for the cause of preaching or to help to accomplish some objectives related to the organizational needs. Or one can engage one's resources, whether it's on car, one's apartments. So Ananda Sundari Mataji, Mahesha Dvaita Prabhu are very wonderful examples. They are here. They are always so wonderfully engaging their home, their money, their facilities, service of Guru and Krishna so wonderfully. So they are a wonderful example for everybody. So like that, one should engage whatever one's resources. And if you don't have anything else, engage your time. that Prabhu, I'm available. I have 2 hours free. What service can I do? Whatever. You want me to water the plants? I'll water the plants. Oh, you want me to clean the, whatever way. Of course, all these services require time. Yeah. But what I'm saying is time is also an important aspect which we are sacrificing for Krishna. So by seva, as far as all material resources are concerned, we spiritualize them by engaging them in Krishna service. While at one level, we think of things as material and spiritual, Prabhupada emphasizes that we must understand that at a deeper level, everything is spiritual because ultimately everything is coming from Krishna and meant for his seva. So what is essentially the difference between material and spiritual? When we use something for our own enjoyment, it acts in a material way. But when the same thing is used for Krishna's service, it acquires its spiritual quality because that is what it was created for. Narad Muni gives a very beautiful definition of bhakti also. And he defines bhakti in terms of seva. This very beautiful definitions where he says Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. What is bhakti or devotional service? Bhakti, Prabhupada never translates as only devotion, but devotional service. Which means that there must be an active engagement of service. And what does active mean? Active means somehow our body, mind, and senses must be actively engaged. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. Engaging the senses, and the senses includes the mind plus the 5 senses are the 6 senses, in the service of the Lord of the senses. Actually, not just 5, but 11 senses. 5 knowledge acquiring senses, 5 action senses, and the mind. Engaging the 11 senses, which means hands, legs, that can engage one's senses in Krishna's service. Rishikena Rishikesha. Who's Rishikesha? Krishna. Why is Krishna called Rishikesha? Rishika means senses and Isha means the Lord. Krishna is the Lord and the master of all the senses. And all the senses that we have are coming from Krishna. He is the Lord and master, and that is why the senses are to be used in his seva. So when we engage our senses in the service of the Lord of the senses, then one becomes engaged in bhakti. Shikena, Shikesh Seva. That is known as. So that is the seva aspect. So we have essentially discussed these 5: Siddhanta, Sadhana, Sadachar, Seva, and of course we started with Satsanga. Yeah. Vinalji, question?
Prabhuji, I remember when the one of the seva, way of seva I've learned, and you have also taught me, is to tolerate as well. So that is part of intelligence, to tolerate.
Actually, okay. Strictly speaking, tolerance is not seva. Strictly speaking, tolerance should be an aspect of proper behavior or sadachar. It's a Vaishnav quality. Tolerance is a Vaishnav quality. So generally the qualities we speak with respect to sadachar, but like what we discussed earlier, sadachar and qualities and all these aspects are also very, very important when it comes to seva. Because within seva, we are interacting with so many devotees. Right? For example, we used to organize so many festivals, right? Janmashtami festivals and so many things. So in that interaction, so many things you want so many people to do, then this person doesn't do it properly, that person doesn't come on time. So that's where all these qualities are put to test: tolerance, humility, forgiveness. So in that way, you can see even within the realm of seva, the aspects of sadachara are still very important, because within the realm of seva, you will be interacting with devotees. So the sadachar with respect to devotees is important. You will be interacting with the Lord, the deity form. So that aspect of sadachar is important. You will be interacting with Guru. You'll be interacting with senior devotees. You'll be interacting with public. So that is where all these areas are overlapping. So sadachar will help you perform your seva properly also. But the focus of our discussion on sadachar will not be seva, but it will help you to do your seva better. So this particular course that we are taking up, and this doesn't mean that other areas are not important, but this particular thread of fortnightly classes focused on sadachar and sadhana. Siddhanta we are already discussing in our Wednesday class in Bhagavad Gita and Saturday class on the Srimad Bhagavat. Satsanga, all of this is satsanga, because we are getting together and discussing Hari Katha. There is this class, Wednesday class, all of this are satsanga, and satsanga goes beyond just even this class. Anywhere devotees come together. Yes, Kathentascha nityam tushyanti ramanti cha. Wherever devotees come together to discuss my glories or to serve me, satsanga. So seva, of course, there are various aspects of seva. So in one sense, even sadhana is a seva, because chanting the holy name of the Lord is also seva. But here, when we talk about seva, we are especially talking of seva in terms of practical service to the Lord, to the devotees, and to the mission of Krishna consciousness. We are talking beyond sadhana here. Okay, so our focus is sadachar and sadhana. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this particular presentation. Okay, any questions so far? Otherwise, I'm going to do a quick sharing of the PDF and do a quick walkthrough, tell you what is it that we're going to discuss. Yeah, Hinalji, you have another question?
Yeah, sorry, Roji, one more. Okay,
Yeah.
so I have read the part of, I think, Sadachar, to the how we, one of the offenses is we cannot share or preach Gita to people who do not believe in Krishna. But my question is, how will you, let's say we are preaching or we're sharing, and how we will know? And so is it that offense? If
So
we
all
don't
that, all those will come in the details of what we are going to discuss. So we haven't come to that. So all these questions that you raised will be addressed. So I will keep it for that discussion, because otherwise I'll go into a long discussion on that topic itself. Because this point needs to be understood in and discussed in great detail. Is that okay? Yeah, same like Gangotri Mataji's question. So hold your specific questions about specific matters of etiquette. But I want, if you have a question in the general sense on these aspects, their interdependencies, why I need to practice them, and how we are going to discuss this. If you have any question on that, you can ask. Otherwise, meanwhile, I'll just share the PDF. Okay, so yeah, so if you can all see, can you all see this, the screen? Yes, okay, good. So I have already shared this particular PDF, a manual of Vaishnav etiquette and lifestyle. Now this particular manual is mainly focused on sadachar, but within sadachar there are some aspects of sadhana discussed, but I will additionally add some aspects of sadhana which are not covered in this manual in great detail, because the focus of the manual is not on sadhana. So I will pick up separate topics and I will schedule them separately. So a small brief about the manual itself and what we are going to discuss. This manual, actually for many years, there wasn't any compiled book on Vaishnav behavior, Vaishnav culture, Vaishnav etiquette. So it was always very challenging for new devotees, new initiates to learn proper behavior and etiquette. And they had to be chastised repeatedly, observe, go on observing others until they figured out what is it that they were supposed to do in a particular situation. Correct? And how many situations there can be? 1,000,001 situations. Yeah. So, so it is not a very, effective way to learn. Of course, by observing devotees, also one learns at least the key parts very fast. So that is very important. But nonetheless, it is always useful to have a reference, a guidebook on Vaishnav etiquette and lifestyle. So because of this need, this particular manual was compiled. This particular manual was compiled in Mumbai, Radha Gopinath Temple, Chowpatty, for the devotees. And subsequently, it has been adopted in many temples, many communities. In fact, Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj also uses this manual for training his own disciples. In fact, he shared this with me and said that, this can be used, right? So apart from this, there is also another wonderful work on Vaishnava etiquette compiled by His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, which is also on Vaishnava etiquette, which is also available, which is also wonderful. Yeah. Since I am familiar with this, and since Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj also recommended this, I'm going to stick to using this. But of course, you can always use the other one as a reference also. But this is generally will be adequate for the purpose that we are doing. So this book is not very big. As you can see, it is only around 93 pages. So not very long. In fact, you can by yourself read through it also. But the reason why we want to discuss this is because even after reading, you will have 101 questions on so many possible scenarios. What about this? What if like this? What if like that? So these are matters of practical behavior, and practical behavior also requires a lot of practical considerations. Like, Minalji was mentioning, oh, what if, what was your question about obeisances? In what situation did you mention obeisances?
It's when we are preaching about Krishna and the person is a non-believer.
No, that's a different. About obeisances, there was some question. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, she asked now whether if somebody has another Mataji.
Oh, Mataji was asking. Gangotri Mataji was asking. Okay, yeah. But there are many interesting situations. I mean, I remember I was in London, and one of my godbrothers was, meeting me in London. I was standing on the London platform at the railway station, and he came and he saw me. I saw him, and we both offered obeisances to each other on the platform. So, of course, in London, nobody cares. You can do anything, and no matter how weird it is, nobody bothers. But, but there may be some situations where, it may be very odd. So anyway, so we'll discuss all those scenarios also. So this is just a quick overview of what is there in this particular manual. I intend to discuss this part 1 very quickly. It's just 1 or 2 pages. That what is the importance? There are 1 or 2 points from Chaitanya Charitamrita which I want to highlight, and the essence. And from the next week, we will start discussing the part 2. So the various other parts of this particular compilation deal with the behavior within the temple. What does it mean to be humble? How to offer obeisances? How to take darshan? How to sit and how to talk? You may think, oh, I know how to sit. I know how to talk. But how does a pure devotee sit? How does a pure devotee talk? What is the proper way? What is the proper dress and appearance of a devotee? About tilak, about the hair, about the kantimala, stash, beard. What is the expected cleanliness and hygiene? What is the general behavior? What should be the behavior when we attend a class? Can we do japa as one is attending class? No, one should not. So these are things which we should learn. How one's behavior should be when arati is going on in the temple. That is another set of rules. Honoring the Lord's prasad or Mahaprasad, how it is to be honored. What are the rules dealing with it? What does one do with the nirmalya of the Lord, the flower garlands and other things? What is the etiquette with respect to Charanamrit, with respect to taking the ghee lamp? How does one deal with things which are connected to the deities, such as the deity's dress, the deity's Mahaprasad? And then various other etiquettes, handling various sacred items like Mridang, Kartal, spiritual books. What is the etiquette with respect to that? Many people do not know. They don't know how to handle the Bhagavad Gita, how to handle the Bhagavad. If you do not know, we'll end up committing offenses. And there are etiquettes with respect to kirtan, singing, dancing, speech, how one speaks with various devotees. And when one preaches, how one preaches. And a very elaborate topic on prasad. Very interesting topic. Prasad, both in terms of kitchen, which is cooking, and prasadam in terms of honoring it. So that's a very interesting discussion. And then there are various appendices where the pranam mantras, obeisances related procedure, the tilak related mantras, prem dhwani mantras, prayers for offering bhoga, prasadam prayers, and all of them are given. And honoring and serving prasad. So how to serve prasad, how to honor prasad, what are the rules for eating and for drinking water? That also there are Vaishnava, beautiful cultural expressions about the food quantity, about after the meal. Dealing with different devotees, this we discuss is a very important aspect. How to deal with the various categories of devotees. 3 categories. What are the 3 categories? Those who are more senior to us, those who are junior to us, and those who are equal to us. Narad Muni says in the Bhagavatam, in the 4th canto, he tells this to Dhruva. Says that if you learn how to deal with these 3 kind of people, you can be actually happy in life. Those who are senior, those who are junior, and those who are your equal. It's a very beautiful shloka in the 4th canto. How to deal with the Guru, very, very important topic. How to deal with our seniors, how to deal with other god brothers, how men deal with ladies and how ladies deal with men, how do we deal with guests, how do we speak and address different categories of devotees. Sannyasis, how do we address them? Ladies, how do we address them? So various aspects like that. Then again, dealing with non-devotees, how do we deal with those who are not devotees? What should be our approach to them? And then there are some aspects of sadhana. Sadhana is not discussed in great detail here. There are some key principles given, but we'll pick up some of these key topics. And most of this actually falls into sadhana. Some of them are seva, for example, devotional service. So there is some etiquette with respect to seva. We will discuss a bit of that. But otherwise, all these various aspects also we will discuss. Then the Holy Dham, visiting the Holy Dham and 10 offenses against the Holy Dham. So you can look through these topics at your leisure. I think you all have this. I have posted it some time ago, but for some reason, if you have joined the group late and you don't have it, ping me and I will post it to you separately one-on-one. Please keep a copy of this PDF and please keep it handy because we will try to follow the book so that you all have a reference point. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the founder of our parampara, even though our parampara originates from Lord Brahma, this is going to take 5 more minutes since we are closing to 10. So just tolerate for 5 more minutes. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, he founded the Chaitanya branch of Radha Krishna Bhakti for all of us. Of course, the first introduction of Radha Krishna Bhakti within our parampara came from Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri to Ishwar Puri and then to Lord Chaitanya. But Madhavendra Puri and Ishwar Puri did not preach Krishna Bhakti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the one who, Krishna himself, came to preach Krishna Bhakti to the world. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, just like Ramchandra is the perfect example of the ideal king, the ideal son, the ideal Raja, the ideal brother, the ideal husband. Just like Ramchandra is that Maryada Purushottam, the perfect embodiment of behavior. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Kali Yuga is the perfect embodiment of a devotee's behavior. He is the perfect. When he was a Grihastha, he had the perfect exemplary behavior as a Grihastha. When he became sannyasi, he exemplified sannyas. And he put a lot of emphasis on proper behavior. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would say that Vaishnav etiquette is the ornament of a devotee. It is the ornament which makes the devotee attractive in the eyes of Krishna and to the world. When the inner devotional qualities of the devotee are manifested in his external behavior, they act like ornaments. Because actually for us, it is not possible for us to peep into the devotee's heart and see how advanced he is, isn't it? So how do we know who's very advanced? We understand a person's advancement through the qualities he displays, through the character he displays, and the behavior he displays, isn't it? We do not have any like a thermometer that we can put into the mouth of the devotee and see, oh, he's still in Adav Shraddha, oh, he's still in Bhajan Kriya, oh, he's in Ruchi, he's in Bhav, and Sarva Lakshmi Mataji is in Prem. Oh, thermometer I have. Spiritual. So we don't have anything like that, right? So the Vaishnava's advancement is seen in terms of the qualities. So all these aspects of proper behavior originally come from the scriptures. A lot of these qualities were described by Lord Chaitanya in a discussion by between Lord Chaitanya and Sanatan Goswami. And Sanatan Goswami has compiled a lot of these etiquette and behavior relating rules in Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is actually a huge compendium on Vaishnava behavior. Of course, the rules in Hari Bhakti Vilas are so elaborate that if you try to follow them, it will be practically impossible. But the key aspects of that is what we are going to learn. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his conversations with Sanatan Goswami, Chaitanya Charitamrita says, my dear Sanatan, although you are the deliverer of the entire universe, and although even the demigods and great saints are purified by touching you, it is the characteristic of a devotee to observe and protect Vaishnava etiquette. Maintenance of Vaishnava etiquette is the ornament of a devotee. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes on to say, if one transgresses the laws of etiquette, people make fun of him and he is vanquished in both this world and the next. What does this mean? That etiquette is not just a matter of an optional choice. Proper etiquette or Vaishnava dealings or dealings in this world as a devotee are an essential part of our spiritual development, spiritual expression. And that helps us advance in Krishna consciousness and to develop a perfect consciousness. So, based on the instructions of Lord Chaitanya, a lot of these etiquettes have come down and they are generally rooted within the Vedic tradition, but there are some more subtleties or specific refinements which are applied in the context of Vaishnavas or devotees of Krishna, especially followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we follow that very specific behavior, but more or less it is aligned with general principles of Sanatan. And ultimately, last point for this class, that ultimately we must understand that all that we are living, all that we are learning, all this etiquette, lifestyle is ultimately meant to lead us towards two things. One is to enable us to conform to the principle of simple living, high thinking. Kali Yuga is high living, simple thinking, or no thinking. That is the sad situation of Kali Yuga. That's why we come up with mottos like just do it, which means don't think. If you feel like doing it, just do it. That is the behavior of animals, not the behavior of civilized human beings. So simple living, high thinking. And ultimately, like we have been repeatedly discussing across our various Siddhanta classes, ultimately all spiritual rules and regulations, sarve vidhi nishedhasyur etayor eva kinkaraha. All rules and regulations are subservient to this two principles. What are those two principles? Smartavya satatam vishnum vismartavya na jatuchit. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So we must understand that the rules of Vaishnava etiquette and behavior that we are going to study are designed in such a way so that they will help us to remember Krishna always and avoid us or avoid forgetting of Krishna in our life, in our interaction with the world around us. That is the essence. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, and next week onwards, we will start with the part 2 and we will go through the manual. So I'm going to open up the floor. My suggestion is, if you want, I suggest that you can read through the manual. Then you can even come up with your questions for the sections that we are covering next time. Of course, I wouldn't know exactly how many pages I'm going to cover because it depends on how much discussion we have around it. But you can roughly assume that within a day we may cover around, let's say, 5 pages. Just assume around 5 pages. So you can go through it, you can make some notes. If you want, it's not a big document. You can even print it and keep a copy with you. Print it and get it spiral bound. And on that, you can make some notes, make some questions, and we can discuss that in our section, in our session. Is that okay? Do you find this useful, helpful? Any comments, any questions? I'm opening the floor.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Vikas.
So for starter, right? A quick question. With these etiquettes or rules, does it will help us to develop the bhav, or does we have to have the bhav first to follow these instructions?
Yeah, very good question. So the second is correct. Sorry, the first is correct. In your case, you mentioned the other way around. The etiquette will help us develop the bhav. Just like what I mentioned, right? We do not feel humility. Ideally, we should always feel humility. But if you don't feel humility, but if you make an effort to offer obeisances, then it will help you to develop the bhav of humility. We may not feel very respectful towards the Vaishnavas, to the Guru, to the deities, but if you observe the etiquette of how to behave in the temple or how to behave in front of the Guru, then the behavior is defined in such a way that only respectful expressions are allowed and disrespectful expressions are not allowed. So it sets a framework in such a way that if you work or act within the framework of those regulated behavior, it facilitates the evoking and the maintenance of the right mental attitude. Yes, but of course, we don't want to stop at that point only. We want to also make an effort to develop actively the right qualities through purification of the heart. And that is where sadhana is important. Because one cannot say, I will not do sadhana, I will just follow the etiquette and I'll just offer obeisances. If you don't do any siddhanta, if you don't do any sadhana, and you say, I will just go on going down and banging my head and develop all other wonderful Vaishnava qualities and bhav, that's not going to work. So all these limbs are important. They are supporting and nourishing each other. But yes, while we are still work in progress, mechanically following these principles helps develop the right bhav. And when one develops the right bhav, this behavior will come naturally. So if somebody has the bhav, he doesn't have to read the manual. He will behave exactly as per the manual, even without reading the manual, because that expression will come automatically. Yes, like what Anand Sundari Mataji says, right? Fake it until you make it. Yeah. Okay, does it help you? Thank you. Any other comment or question? Okay, so yeah. So also I want to say another thing. Some of you may be very new, relatively new, and you may have been very enthusiastic to participate in this session. So we have not limited or restricted anybody from joining this session. So do not be overwhelmed by all the rules and regulations and jump to, oh, you know, I can never do this. Oh, this is so complicated to remember. That is not the idea behind this. Learn, slowly start implementing some things in your life, especially important things like dealing with the deity, dealing with the devotees, guru, dealing with prasad. Some of these aspects are very important. And there may be some finer things which you can pick up slowly over time. And ultimately, the best learning for such principles is not just a theory class. Ultimately, the best learning is being in the association of devotees. When we are in the association of devotees in a temple environment, or we are regularly attending a satsanga where devotees who are trained in proper etiquette are there, then simply by observing them, you just have to emulate them. Then we don't even need the book. And that is how so many devotees over so many decades have been learning, by observing. But we have a double benefit. We have a reference manual also, and we have a live demo also. So for the live demo, you have to actually either visit the temple or attend satsang programs where devotees are actually physically coming together. Then that will be very helpful. That is definitely the fastest way. There is no replacement for that. So this course is not a replacement for that. That is highly encouraged. But for whatever reason, if that is not possible, this is the best use of a bad bargain. At least we learn certain things, at least we understand certain principles, and then slowly we can start implementing them in our life. Okay, so thank you all very much. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.